Hello, friends. Welcome back to History Chronicles. In our last episode, we explored the brutal Winter War between Finland and the Soviet Union, a battle that showcased the fierce resistance of the Finnish people. But as the winter of 1940 ended, Europe was far from calm. Hitler's gaze now shifted towards Scandinavia, where two nations, Denmark and Norway, would soon find themselves at the mercy of the Nazi war machine. What led to these invasions? And why were Denmark and Norway so crucial for Germany's war strategy? In today's episode, we dive into the daring operations that began in April 1940, when the quiet corners of Scandinavia became the stage for a new chapter in World War II. By the early months of 1940, Hitler's forces had already achieved a series of swift victories in Eastern and Central Europe. However, his ambitions were far from fulfilled. The strategic value of Scandinavia had become increasingly apparent as World War II progressed. But why exactly were Denmark and Norway so important? For Hitler, Scandinavia offered several key advantages. 1. Securing iron ore. Norway's ice-free port of Narvik was critical for transporting Swedish iron ore, a vital resource for Germany's war industry. Ensuring access to this ore would keep the German war machine running. 2. Controlling the North Atlantic. Hitler wanted to strengthen his navy's position in the North Atlantic. Securing bases along the Norwegian coast would allow Germany to challenge British control over the sea routes. Number 3. Preempting British action. Intelligence reports suggested that Britain was planning to intervene in Norway to cut off Germany's access to Swedish iron ore. Hitler needed to act before the Allies did. With these goals in mind, Hitler launched Operation Weserübung, the code name for Germany's simultaneous invasions of Denmark and Norway. The invasion of Denmark, a blitzkrieg in hours, April 9, 1940, marked the beginning of the German assault. Denmark, a small and militarily weak nation, was unprepared for the scale of the attack. Despite the valiant efforts of the Danish soldiers, they stood little chance against the might of the Wehrmacht. The blitzkrieg strategy. The German invasion of Denmark was executed with the same blitzkrieg, lightning war, tactics that had already proven successful in Poland. German forces quickly crossed the Danish border and used a combination of ground and air attacks to overwhelm the defenders. In a matter of 6 hours, the Danish government surrendered. This was one of the shortest military campaigns in modern history. The Germans occupied Denmark almost without resistance, and the Danish king, Christian Tex, had no choice but to cooperate with the occupation to avoid bloodshed. While the country's military was small, the swift fall of Denmark gave the Germans a key advantage: an unobstructed route to Norway. The invasion of Norway, a strategic gamble. Unlike Denmark, Norway would prove to be a more formidable challenge for the Nazis. The country's rugged terrain and fiercely independent people would not fall as easily as their southern neighbor. Operation Weserübung continued on the same day, April 9, 1940, as German troops stormed Norway's key ports and cities. The German plan of attack. The invasion of Norway was complex, involving sea, air, and land forces. The plan was to capture several strategic locations simultaneously, including Oslo, the capital, Narvik, the critical port in the north, Bergen, an important naval base. German forces relied heavily on paratroopers and naval landings to secure these points quickly. A major component of the plan was the use of paratroopers to seize key airfields and create footholds for reinforcements. This allowed Germany to quickly establish control in southern and central Norway. However, unlike Denmark, the Norwegians, led by King Haakon VII, refused to surrender easily. Norwegian forces, supported by British and French troops, would put up a fierce fight, especially in the northern part of the country. The Norwegian resistance, defending Narvik and Trondheim. One of the fiercest battles during the invasion of Norway occurred at Narvik. This icy port town was vital for both Germany and the Allies due to its proximity to Sweden and its role in exporting iron ore. The Battle of Narvik. The German plan for Narvik involved a naval assault, with German destroyers carrying troops to the town. However, Norwegian and Allied forces, including British and Polish troops, put up a stiff resistance. The naval engagements in the fjords around Narvik were intense, with heavy losses on both sides. For several weeks, the Germans and their opponents were locked in a bloody struggle for control of the town. Although the Allies managed to win some early victories, such as destroying German destroyers, the overall campaign faltered due to poor coordination and lack of reinforcements. In the end, Narvik fell into German hands. British and French involvement. Too little, too late? The British, aware of Norway's strategic importance, had been preparing their own intervention. When Germany launched its invasion, the British and French quickly moved to assist the Norwegians. British troops landed in northern Norway, while naval forces engaged the German fleet. However, the Allied intervention was plagued by poor planning and logistical challenges. The mountainous terrain of Norway made it difficult for the Allies to mobilize their forces effectively. Despite some early successes, such as at Namsos and Narvik, the overall campaign struggled to gain momentum. Meanwhile, Germany's superior air force, the Luftwaffe, dominated the skies over Norway, making it difficult for Allied forces to hold their positions. In particular, the Luftwaffe's attacks on British ships and ground forces dealt heavy blows to the Allied effort. By June 1940, with France falling to the Nazis, the British were forced to withdraw their forces from Norway, leaving the country under German control. Aftermath: strategic gains for Germany. The invasions of Denmark and Norway were critical victories for Nazi Germany. While Denmark had fallen quickly, the fighting in Norway lasted for nearly 2 months. In the end, both countries were occupied, but the invasions gave Germany several significant advantages. 1. Control over Scandinavian resources. Germany now had access to Norway's ports and Sweden's iron ore, which were vital for its war industry. 2. Naval bases. The capture of Norway provided the Kriegsmarine, German Navy, with key naval bases along the North Sea, threatening Allied shipping routes. 3. Increased influence in Europe. Hitler's strategic position in Northern Europe was now secure, allowing him to focus on his next major campaign, the invasion of France and the Low Countries. While Norway and Denmark were under occupation, their resistance movements would continue to fight from within, with the Norwegian government going into exile in Britain and supporting sabotage operations. The invasions of Denmark and Norway in April 1940 marked a turning point in World War II. Germany's swift, brutal tactics secured key positions in Northern Europe, setting the stage for even larger conflicts to come. But as we'll see in future episodes, these victories would not go unchallenged, as resistance movements in occupied countries continued to fight back, and the tide of war would soon shift. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our next episodes. What do you think about Germany's strategic moves in Scandinavia? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring history with us.